Welcome to 2025. We will concentrate a little bit this first part of the year on how to plan out your production and some of the skills that you might need for that. Many of these videos will not be based on any skill level, so anyone can take advantage of them. And today we're just going to talk about how to plan out production, since I think I have nailed down enough suggestions and enough experience to share a couple of tips and a couple of insights that might help anyone in any single skill level. Straight from Mexico City, my name is Juanchis, and let's just jump into it. We will be working in Reaper as most of the time in this channel, although concentrating on workflow as well, on how to do things better there. You open Reaper and it's a blank canvas and it's intimidating because anything can go. You can start making as many tracks as you want. You can start loading track templates and load the virtual instruments that you use. You can even start loading the effects that you use the most, but that doesn't get you there, Like sometimes when you're trying, as I was, and since the beginning, trying to offer a service for someone else, what you want to do is to be able to analyze and to synthesize what's the most interesting thing of any specific song. And from there, you can start sticking to one of those concepts. So let's suppose that you just load the track or the demo that someone sent you with guitar and voice. And you have something like that. You have to figure out the tempo. You have different ways to do that. You could take advantage of selecting a whole bar or a whole mesh or a whole amount of measures and set project tempo from time selection, and you will see different options. Figure out what's best for however you're working. You can even modify the time signature. I know this won't be 33. I know this really is in 68 more or less, where the actual production ended. And you can even adjust your metronome pattern if you want to record something specifically. I know for recording this, it was best to listen to the 8th notes fill. And from here on, you have all of your song, and you can just adjust your first bar. And you can start listening to the whole demo using markers to set up a verse, a chorus. In this case, since I had already done it from Ableton Live and I did the original demo on Ableton Live, I'm just going to create the project markers from MIDI notes in the MIDI items. So this generates instantly all of the markers that I need that are related to my song structure, right? So I have my intro, my verse, my pre-chorus, and specific indications that I might need for the song. But this doesn't really help you plan out still your song. Like, you just have a demo. You're really just starting with something like this. So I will make a whole video on that, like the whole timbre of your ensemble. That has to do with your arrangement and other stuff. But probably I will end up using something like drums, a bass, I will end up using guitars, and I will end up using keys. And of course, I will end up using something like vocals. I will end up using backing vocals for my production, right? So with this, I can really start planning out my song. So maybe in this part of the song, I don't want anything that has to do with drums, and I just want to start thinking through the song without still laying out stuff. There are different exercises that I will keep on sharing on how to develop different skills that you might need for making music or for collaborating in music. So it's going to be as easy as having a time selection made, selecting all of my tracks, and I will only make media items that are completely empty for all of my tracks, right? And that in my head is saying I will have those instruments playing there, even though I don't know yet what they will be playing, right? Okay. So again, I will only have something like this planned out. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is final in any sense. But now I can start planning ahead. Since I can see that I have some pre-chorus and some drop here of some sort, maybe I don't want the drop to have drums. So I can find my other drop that's here, and I can also mute that part of the drums. I'm using the split items at time selection or razor edit, so I can only double click select the time, click the MIDI item that I want, do my shortcut, and hit 0 on my mouse because that's where I have my mute. And I can keep on planning. Like maybe as I listen to the demo, I see that on the bridges, I don't really have vocals, none of this. And here, maybe I don't have either one of these. And I'm going to leave it to some sort of instrument right there. But again, this is something of playing the demo and trying to figure out what you're feeling. Like this is one way of exercising that. And maybe for this section of when the second verse returns, I don't want my bass to come in. Maybe I don't even want my drums to come in yet. They are part of the bridge, but maybe here I have a more cymbal-y section. And I'm just trying to figure out more or less the idea of what's going to be happening. I could even let the guitars don't happen during the intro and just rely completely on the melody and the bass line to outline the chords. Probably the backing vocals could be useful starting the first verse. Another way of making this faster is I'm using these actions to go to next or previous marker. Then I'm splitting the item, and that instantly selects the left side of the item that I split, and then I'm just hitting 0 to mute it. That way I can think of my backing vocals track only, and I can split here. That way I can start working, I don't know, on my backing vocals. I'll split it, I'll hit 0, I'll go further ahead. Maybe I want it across all of the verse. Maybe I don't want them on the pre-chorus, and maybe I want them across all of the chorus. I want them in the drop, and rinse and repeat, or whatever your structure might need. Something like that. Like that's a big overview. This is actually a song that I'm producing, so as I said, I already know more or less where I want to go. From here, once you start figuring out what's the main groove of, or however you start, if you haven't seen my video on 4 ways on starting on how to start making music, like go check it out because I talk about this in another way. But if you are starting with a groove, then you figure out that first. If you're working through the melody or the chords, do that first. But you can start building once you have most of these things set up. And maybe I can start fine-tuning a lot more this idea. So I will make an auxiliary for guitars, right? And I want some guitars that are rhythm guitars, right? And I want them to always be stereo. I'm planning them out as stereo. Maybe I want another guitar that's going to be like fills, like some leaks here and there. And maybe I want another guitar that's going to be some sort of counterpoint, counter melody, or hooks, you know? And I'm just naming more or less what I want. So maybe I want fills here and there, but I would rather just record a single version of it and then start picking what's best. And like I want some sort of interplay between the guitars and the keys. So here my thought would be to have some sort of keys rhythmic, right? You could even have like a small guitar doing some chord melody. And for this, you have to know more or less what every instrument can do. I also made a big video on like the overall instruments that make a music production or make music, you know, in many senses. So also I'll link it in the description. Go check it out. I'm going to leave all of this off because I still don't know where it will happen. And I'm thinking of keys more of a rhythmic kind of way. And I'm thinking here more of keys in a melodic kind of way. And I'm always thinking of who's doing what. And it's an easier way to plan this out. So instruments don't start getting in each other's feet or in the way of each other. And maybe I want some keys that are just harmony, you know, like complete harmony. So by looking at this, I can start alternating or playing a little bit more with what everyone is doing. So I want the rhythmic that's going to be on the guitars here. And again, that every cut you make is going to select first or prioritize the left. So you can start doing backwards to forwards, or you can change the action to split items on the mouse cursor and then select right. That way you can move from left to right across your multitrack, right? Once I have all of these items more or less selected or planned out, I can really start nitpicking, let's call it that, what everyone is going to be doing. So, hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate if you go down into the Buy Me a Coffee link and help support my work. I will keep on making videos all of the year so you can get better at making music and your listening skills and just get better at whatever you want to do with your own time. Let's get back to the video. This is a strange way of looking at it, and it's like a transition I made from some electronic music producers arranged in a different way. Like they are thinking of, I have all of these timbres and all of these things going on. How can I take advantage of it, right? So for this way of thinking it, I'm thinking it more as a mental exercise of what will fit where, and then traditional musical way, I'm thinking of who is doing what at what given time. And those are like my main elements. Everything around them is around them, but these have to be like up top and clear as hell and easy to memorize, right? So my rhythmic guitar will be stereo. I can even pan it out beforehand. So again, I'm only thinking more or less what I want. So these rhythmic guitars, maybe I want them in stereo. Maybe these keys rhythmic are already stereo and I'm thinking about them that way. If you want like a more visual representation of it, like you can double the track. In my case, I think it's not necessary because most audio inputs or plugins are already making it stereo. So I don't have this issue of having to deal with two tracks. Also, you could make this track stereo and that solves the issue, but I'm just thinking about my panning, right? This is like full left and right. If that means mono, like that means mono. It's fine. And even though I'm always thinking about my keys to really hold the harmony down, I'm going to concentrate on this section to be a little bit more rhythmic and on these sections to make it a little bit more rhythmic. That way they are changing the role across the song with my guitars. I think my guitar can start making some more counter melodies around here, maybe during the drop. And in the drop, what will probably end up happening is that my guitars still have to be a little bit rhythmic, but I will record a different guitar to just do a couple of counter melodies or probably just fills. Well, the fills might be better during the bridge. So something like, it will probably look something like this. During my second verse, I much rather have my guitar to become this chord melody sort of thing. Then it can probably go into some counter melody and go back to the rhythm section. And this looks a little bit more organized. So the whole idea of doing this first part of the exercise is to actually have something in mind. If it feels cluttered because you have all of these icons, remember that under Appearance and Media, you can change which media item buttons you have at site. So maybe I don't want to have the no effects, maybe I don't want to have the no muted one, and I'm just trying to clean up this a little bit. And you can also change when the buttons will hide, if that makes it easier. You can also play around with this parameter and see what works best for you. So the great thing of trying this is that you can keep on doing that for the rest of your instruments, and you can even start pre-naming your tracks of what kind of instrument you're thinking of. Eventually, I hope, most people will understand that, yes, a path might be only some sort of synth instrument building harmony, but there are different sounds of pads. You can make it more drone-like, you can make it more signy, you can make it slower. You can use it as part of an effect, or of a texture that's much bigger than the pad itself. Or maybe you want everything to lay on top of the pad. On the case of the vocals, maybe I just want the lead vocals where I want them to be. And in the case of the backing vocals, maybe I can start listening to the track and thinking about, oh, I want to support this word and that word. And I can start thinking about unison, octaves, and all of those things that I can use for stacking vocals, right? I could even think of using some backing vocals, distortion, and whatever other thing you might have in your head. Remember that you can also take advantage of this and start naming them as like further back or further up front, like pan them out. And again, this all makes sense, especially in Reaper, because we have a fantastic action that I will also link in the video if you want to learn more about it, where I can just right click up here and I can change my recording mode to AutoPunch selected items, right? So this means that now what I can do is whenever I'm recording on top of my production, it doesn't matter if this one was the MIDI instrument, I can just duplicate the track, I can mute this one, and I'm just going to start recording on top of that same idea by selecting this item. And with this record AutoPunch selected items, I can just hit record, arm my track. And now whenever I start recording my backing vocals unison, I can just start doing. And it's going to stop whenever the media item stops, and everything will be arranged without me having to make new tracks, just because without having to figure out where else can I start like just filling out with stuff. And remember to have different sessions where one, you get like the most basic things that you need where you feel the song is complete. And then on another session, on a different day, you can start building all of the extra details that you want. You can overproduce it, like that's fine. You can polish it as much as you want, let it rest, and then come back to it and really think how much of that extra polish that doesn't belong to this main structure of your song is just getting in the way of the song. I hope this kind of video is interesting enough for the first video of 2025. I will be making this type of content for first part of this year, trying to help you narrow down how to listen, how to concentrate on what matters the most. That's only the music. So even if you're trying to set your demo against a vocal that was recorded more or less with a click, I also have a video on how to tempo map. I will link it in the description down below. And then you will end up having some sort of instrumental like this. And honestly, that's a lot faster than just trying to figure out what else can you do to that song. There are different ways on trying to practice your listening and your imagination when making music. If you like this kind of videos, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with anyone that might find this interesting. And join us in the Reaper Squad Discord or go check any of their YouTube channels because they're also doing great content. And straight from Mexico City, my name is Juanchis, and thanks for listening.